Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. If you're diving into Isekai Saga Awaken, you know how overwhelming it can be to figure out which characters are worth your time and resources. With so many unique heroes to choose from, it's tough to know who should be in your squad and who might be better off staying in the background. Well, don't worry because we've got you covered with this ultimate cheat sheet. We've put together a comprehensive tier list to help you make those important decisions so you can level up your team and take on the toughest challenges without all the guesswork. In this video, we'll walk you through the top tier characters that you absolutely want to invest in, as well as the ones you might want to skip. Whether you're a newbie trying to get a solid start or you're looking for those hidden gems that will give you a competitive edge, this guide is perfect for you. So sit back, relax, and let's jump into the world of Isekai Saga Awaken. I'm quickly moving on to the video and I'm ranking characters in Isekai Saga Awaken. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of tier list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching.
My friends, only 0.1% of viewers subscribe. If you like this type of content, please do not forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you in advance for your support.
The characters in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Alexander, Angus, Nekomaru, Tsubaki, Lionheart, Lancelot, Ivar, Moonbow, Adventurer, Flamer Rider, Shaman, and Adonis. Alright, so today we're diving into the Isekai Saga Awaken heroes that you absolutely should not be holding on to. Yes, we're talking about the D tier heroes. These are the ones that, frankly, you're going to want to replace ASAP, like yesterday. Let's kick things off with Alexander, who on paper sounds like he could be a decent pick as an AoE DPS. But nah, in practice, he's just not cutting it. Even though he's a 4-star character, he's still pretty much garbage. So if you're rocking him on your team, it's time to start thinking about upgrades. Then we've got Ivar and Moonbow. Both are terror heroes and while they come with some physical damage potential, their single target and AoE abilities just don't do enough damage to make them worth keeping around. It's one thing if you've got a niche for them, but in most situations, they're just a waste of space. And honestly, you can swap them out for just about anything that brings more firepower to the table. I mean, you're looking at heroes like Lionheart and Tsubaki, who both might look cool in theory with their single target physical damage, but let's face it, they're just more dead weight in your lineup. And don't even get me started on the completely useless ones, Adonis, Shaman, Flame Rider, and Adventurer. These guys are just not good for anything. Adonis in particular is a total loss. He's in a league of his own when it comes to being useless. If you're still hanging on to any of these, it's time to let them go. Don't worry, there are way better heroes waiting for you, so let's clear out that D tier and start building a team that can actually handle some real damage. The characters in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Abe no Saime, Hephaestus, Siren, Ninja, Spartacus, Geo, Potamus, and Panda. Alright folks, buckle up because today we're diving into the world of Isekai Saga Awaken, where heroes are as varied as they are powerful. But not every hero is created equal. Today, we're going to talk about those heroes in the C tier, the ones that still have some cool abilities but aren't quite living up to their full potential. Let's take a look at some of these characters who might not be the best but can still pack a punch if used right. First up, we've got Abe no Saime, a healer who focuses on single target and mass heals. While he can keep your team alive, he's just not a damage dealer. I mean, that's his job, right? He's not meant to wipe out enemies, but if you're in need of keeping your squad healthy through some intense battles, he's your guy. Still, if you're looking for some DPS alongside those heals, you might want to look elsewhere. Next, there's Siren. She's all about single target magic damage and healing, but here's the kicker. She can dish out some decent DPS while healing low HP allies. The thing is, as great as she is, once you get into the higher tier heroes, like S+ ranks, she's kind of outpaced. But if you need someone who can balance healing and damage, she might still fit into your squad. Just don't expect her to carry the team in later stages of the game. Then we've got Hephaestus. This hero brings single target physical damage with a twist, Armor Shred. So, if you're facing enemies with some heavy defense, Hephaestus is pretty useful. He can lower enemy DEF, which gives your team a fighting chance. However, much like Siren, once you get into the S+ ranks, he starts to fall behind. His solid single target, DPS, makes him a great pick for early to mid game, but you might want to swap him out as you advance. Now, let's talk about Ninja, a true assassin who focuses on low HP enemies. With some insane DPS, Ninja is all about picking off those weaker targets. Sounds awesome, right? The thing is, his skills are outscaled by those big shot S+ heroes. If you need to mop up enemies quickly, Ninja's your guy, but just know that he'll eventually be overshadowed by some of the other heavy hitters. Geo, on the other hand, applies silence with his skills and gets rage from basic attacks when maxed out. While that sounds like a solid support hero, his DPS is a bit underwhelming compared to other S ranks. He's got a lot of utility with that silence and rage mechanic, but he's not going to be your go-to damage dealer. Still, if you need to control the battlefield and stop your enemies from casting spells, Geo's got you covered. And lastly, let's talk about Potamus. This hero's a tanky DPS powerhouse with solid single target damage. He builds rage on crits and skill casts, making him pretty strong in longer fights. But once again, he's outscaled by those S+ heroes. His potential is there, but he just can't quite compete with the top tier characters. Still, if you're looking for a solid single target DPS for your roster, Potamus can get the job done. Just keep an eye on those higher tier heroes. So there you have it, folks. These C tier heroes in Isekai Saga Awaken may not be the absolute top contenders, but they can still hold their own if you know when and where to use them. Keep these guys in mind, especially when you're just starting out or building a diverse team. The characters in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Phoenix, Laura, Lady Jen, King Arthur, and Kengo. Let's dive right into the B tier heroes of Isekai Saga Awaken, the ones that aren't quite top tier but still have their moments. These heroes can be fun to use in the right setup, but let's be honest, they've got some flaws that keep them from being the true stars of the show. But hey, every hero has their time to shine, right? So let's break down these B tier characters and see what they bring to the table. First up, we've got Phoenix, the healer and support hero. Now, Phoenix really excels in the healing department, single target healing to be specific. If you're looking to keep a single hero alive in a tough spot, Phoenix is your go-to. Plus, Phoenix can buff up Ignis allies, which is pretty nice if you're running a fire-focused team. However, when it comes to AoE healing, well, let's just say Phoenix doesn't really bring much to the party. And while the support role is there are other heroes that do it better, so Phoenix might be a bit overshadowed. Next, we've got Laura. She's all about the debuffing game, particularly with her ability to apply a mark that increases enemy damage taken. This can be super useful when you're focusing on single enemies, but applying that mark across multiple foes, it takes a bit too long and you're left wanting more. Plus, Laura's single target DPS isn't exactly mind-blowing, which leaves her in a bit of an awkward spot. She's definitely a niche pick and doesn't quite match up to some of the stronger support heroes in the game. Then there's Bard, a hero who at first glance seems like a solid support option. Bard brings rage regen and healing to the table, along with some defensive buffs for your aqua heroes. The problem? You'll need a lot of dupes to get those team-wide heals working, and even then, Bard's buffs and passives don't do much to wow the crowd. Unfortunately, Bard's outclassed by some of the higher tier healers like Asclepius, making Bard a bit of a nice try character in most situations. Now, let's talk about King Arthur. Yes, the legendary king himself. King Arthur can apply random debuffs to all enemies and buff up their damage taken, which sounds great in theory, but the reality is that King Arthur just doesn't hit hard enough to make a real impact. Sure, she restores rage for herself and allies, but when you've got Ares out there completely countering her abilities, it's hard to see King Arthur as anything more than a bit of a headache. Not to mention, her DPS is seriously lacking. For beginners, she's a rough pick. And then there's Kengo, our AoE deep hero. Kengo's got decent AoE damage, but honestly, it's nothing to write home about. The damage numbers are on the lower side, and without a bunch of dupes to unlock the good passives, Kengo can feel pretty underwhelming. For an S+ hero, Kengo really doesn't live up to expectations, which is a bit disappointing considering the hype surrounding him. If you're looking for AoE power, Kengo might not be the hero to lead your team. So there you have it. The B tier heroes in Isekai Saga Awaken definitely have their perks, but they're also weighed down by their limitations. They're not bad by any means, but if you're looking for heroes that can carry your team, you might want to look higher up the tier list. Still, if you're a fan of experimenting with different team comps, these B tier heroes might just surprise you in the right situations. The characters in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Medusa, Moon, Frostedge, Kongming, Ignis Scorpio, Joan of Arc, and Ren. Alright, let's dive into the world of Isekai Saga Awaken and talk about some A tier heroes that can really shine if you play your cards right. Now, we all know that picking the right hero can make or break your strategy, so let's break down the heroes who might not be the top dogs but are still absolutely worth your time. First up, we have Medusa, a hero that can definitely charm her way into your team. Medusa's charm ability can cause enemies to fall under her spell, which is pretty fun to watch. She also has some debuff skills that reduce enemy rage, making it easier to control the pace of the battle. But yeah, there's always a but. Her DPS is a bit lackluster, and if you're going up against a team that's stacked with status shields, her passive healing might not even matter. Still, if you need a debuffer with some decent utility, she could be a good pick, just don't expect her to be the one dealing heavy damage. Then we have Moon, a bit of a late bloomer, but one that really shines once you get her passives going. She's all about physical damage and excels in those critical hit-heavy teams. With the right synergies, Moon can just obliterate enemies, and she's especially useful when taking out low HP targets. The downside? Well, she definitely needs some dupes to unlock her full potential, and that ramp-up time can feel like a bit of a drag. If you're just starting out, Moon might feel a little underwhelming at first, but if you invest in her, she becomes a powerhouse. Next up, we have Frostage, who is the AoE magic DPS queen. Well, she's on her way to being that. The thing is, Frostage really thrives when you can build her rage, but she needs a ton of dupes to really hit her stride. She can deal decent AoE damage and even stun enemies if their rage is low, but that front row target limitation really holds her back. And let's not forget, she's definitely not the best choice for beginners. But if you're looking for someone who can handle multiple enemies at once and don't mind the grind to make her a true powerhouse, she's a solid choice. Moving on to Kongming, a support hero who really shines in healing and buffing. He's pretty good with both single target and AoE heals, and those offensive buffs he provides can really turn the tide of battle in your favor. But again, he's one of those heroes that needs some dupes to really become great. While he can be useful in many situations, he's kind of outclassed by the likes of Asclepius. So, while Kongming is a solid choice, he's not exactly breaking any new ground when it comes to support heroes. Ignis Scorpio is another fun hero that fills multiple roles. She can deal magic damage, support, buffer, and even throw up some shields. She's a versatile jack of all trades, especially with her back row targeting and the ability to give allies lifesteal and crit DMG buffs. She can even cleanse debuffs and provide some CC immunity. But here's the kicker. Her shields are a bit unreliable with a low trigger chance, and her overall DPS isn't mind-blowing. If you're looking for someone who can do a little bit of everything, she's a good choice, but regular supports tend to outshine her in the healing and buffing department. Finally, let's talk about Ren, who's an absolute beast when it comes to AoE damage. The best part? She doesn't need any dupes to be effective. Ren can dish out permanent AoE DPS, making her an awesome pick for taking down large groups of enemies. However, her single target damage is a bit lacking, and she tends to get outscaled by stronger heroes later on in the game. Still, if you're just starting out, Ren is an excellent beginner hero. Just don't expect her to be a long-term powerhouse without some serious upgrades. And there you have it. These A-tier heroes in Isekai Saga Awaken might not be the absolute top-tier contenders, but they definitely bring something useful to the table. Whether you're looking for debuffers, support, or AoE DPS, there's something here for everyone. Just remember to consider their synergies and potential before committing to them in your team. The characters in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right: Portobello, Hades, Laplace, Great Adventurer, Alice, Shirley, Xiangon, Hera, Taichi, Gilgamesh, and Nitika. Alright, let's dive into some of the powerhouse heroes in Isekai Saga Awaken. These are the characters that really stand out, making waves with their insane potential and game-changing abilities. Some of them need a bit of work to truly shine, but when they do, wow, they're unstoppable. Let's talk about the top tier picks you'll want on your team. First up, we've got Portobello, the ultimate assassin. He's all about single target magic damage and burn damage over time. If you're looking for insane assassination potential, this guy's got your back. He works wonders with Ignis allies, but don't expect him to do much on his own. He really needs some dupes to unlock his full potential. And yeah, the RNG aspect can be a bit annoying. He's got no way of targeting low HP enemies, so you might find him missing the mark every now and then. But when everything aligns, he's a monster. Next, we have Hades, the Poison Master. He brings serious single target physical damage, but what makes him shine is his insane poison stacking when upgraded. He's perfect for sustained DPS, especially in those long fights where you just need to wear down an enemy. The catch? He's a bit reliant on dupes and gets countered by status immunity, which can put a serious dent in his damage. Still, if you don't mind the grind, he's a solid choice for beginners and late game players alike. Then there's Laplace, the tanky support hero. She brings physical damage, taunting, and even invincibility shields to keep your team safe. The lower her HP gets, the tankier she becomes. Sounds great, right? But here's the thing, she needs a lot of dupes to become OP, and if you're just starting, she can feel pretty underwhelming. Plus, some other tanks can outshine her in certain situations. If you've got the resources to invest though, she can become a beast. Let's talk about Great Adventurer next. This hero is a bit of a slow burn. He's excellent in PvE content, especially for beginners, and his passives get really good once maxed out. However, don't expect any utility. His damage takes time to ramp up, and he's not exactly the best pick for PvP. But if you're just focusing on PvE, you'll find his value is sky high. And then there's Alice, the perfect support for burn stacking teams. She's a tank, healer, and buffer all in one, providing some solid damage reduction and excellent healing. Her burn stacking is top tier, especially when paired with Ignis allies. The downside, if she's not taking basic attacks, she can be pretty useless, but if you're building around her burn abilities, she's going to be a fantastic asset to your team. Last but not least, Shirley brings some serious debuffing power to the table. She spreads burn damage from one enemy to others, amplifies debuffs, and even restores rage to herself and your highest ATK ally. She's an amazing synergy hero for those Ignis burn teams and works wonders when you've got debuff-focused builds. However, she's pretty reliant on dupes to be effective, and outside of those teams, she's not as strong. Still, once you've got her maxed out, you'll see just how powerful she can be. And there we have it. These are some of the absolute must-have heroes in Isekai Saga Awaken. Each one has their strengths, and while they might need a bit of investment, the payoff is absolutely worth it. So, which hero are you adding to your team? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to hit that like button if you found this helpful. The characters in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Musashi, Lucifer, Guan Yu, Lubu, Asclepios, Aquarius, Cyclops, Ares, Yukihime, and Lamia. Let's talk about some of the absolute game changers in Isekai Saga Awaken, those heroes that can make or break your team. These S+ tier heroes are the ones you'll want to max out if you're aiming for serious power and that sweet victory. They bring insane damage, support, and synergy to the table, so let's dive right into it. First up, we have Musashi. This guy is a straight up beast when it comes to dealing single target physical damage. What makes him even better? He's a debuffer who shreds enemy defense while boosting his own crit rate. The real kicker is his lifesteal. Basically, he can keep going and going, especially if you're spamming those basic attacks. But, like most heroes in this tier, Musashi really hits his peak when you get a few dupes. Still, even without dupes, he's a top tier endgame DPS. Then there's Lucifer, the ultimate burn stacker. If you've been building a burn comp, this is your guy. His ability to amplify burn damage is unparalleled, and he's a fantastic buffer and debuffer. Lucifer isn't just about burning enemies, he buffs the damage they take from burn too. He works like a charm with Lamia and Hera, so if you're going for a burn heavy strategy, he's an absolute must. Just keep in mind, he's one of those heroes that shines the brightest when you've got a few dupes under your belt. Next on the list is Guan Yu, and he's pretty much a dream for beginners. He's got insane single target damage, and when you max him out, he deals percentage-based HP damage on crits. Just brutal. On top of that, he's got lifesteal when you get him to 10 stars, making him even tankier. But like the others, he needs some dupes to truly become an unstoppable force. Let's talk about Lubu, the AoE DPS king. Seriously, his AoE damage is broken. He can clear mobs in no time and works incredibly well with Medusa, but here's the catch, his single target DPS is a bit lacking. If you've got him on your team, get ready for some insane damage in large battles, but be aware that he needs to be hit with basic attacks to really shine. And while you don't need a ton of dupes to make him strong, they definitely help. Now, we can't forget Asclepios, who's one of the best support heroes in the game. He heals like crazy, applies buffs, and even grants status immunity to your team. Oh, and did I mention he can revive an ally once per battle? Talk about a lifesaver. He's a bit dependent on dupes to become truly OP, but even without them, his support abilities are insane. The only downside is, he's not a damage dealer. He's all about keeping your team alive and in the fight. Last but not least, let's talk about Aquarius. This hero is a tank and support hybrid, offering some of the best shields in the game. She can share damage with allies and reduce enemy rage, making her an absolute beast in both offense and defense. But she's definitely one of those heroes who needs some serious upgrades to become a real powerhouse. Once you get her to a solid level though, she's one of the best endgame tanks and supports around. There you have it folks, these S+ tier heroes are absolute legends in Isekai Saga Awaken. Whether you're looking for powerful DPS, insane support, or tanking potential, these heroes have got your back. Just remember, they all require a bit of work to unlock their full potential, but once you do, you'll be unstoppable. The video ends here, see you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.